Hey, it is Lieutenant Skip here again with another video. And today I want to talk to you about what I call perimeter officers and why agencies will do whatever they can not to hire people that they deem or that they see as perimeter officers. So, what is a perimeter officer? I was in a training class held by another agency, and I was an officer at the time. It was a class on getting ready to take the assessment center for promotional exams. And so, this lieutenant who was teaching the class, he said he always looked out for people he called perimeter officers. And what that meant was officers that he could see who had a track record and a history of always trying to take a perimeter spot. So in law enforcement, let's say you have a foot chase or something like that, and the suspect's running, and now you lost sight of him. So typically, we will set up a perimeter around the area we last saw him. So all those posts are covered by officers, and then we start searching within that box or within that area to locate the suspect. So the ones who are always on that perimeter are the officers who don't want to get involved, who are always going to try to hit that easy button and opt out for something that's not going to be much work. And what he said was if he started to recognize people in these situations or um, that always took that spot and became that perimeter officer, he wasn't going to bring them into his units. He was not going to fight to bring them into a specialty unit where uh, the A players need to be because he was going to bring people down. And so, what you need to look at in this context is are you the type of person who always is willing to step up and get involved? Or are you always a person who is going to be that perimeter officer? That person is going to do the least amount of work. And now it's going to be up to you to show departments that you're not that perimeter officer. And so once you're on the job, the last thing you want is a reputation as a perimeter officer because it can mean that it can stall your career, right? You're not going to be selected for those good assignments that could really launch your career forward. If you are a supervisor, your officers may not want to vote your team or work for you because they know that you aren't going to do the work to help them out. So if you're applying to be a police officer, the last thing you want is an agency to think that you are a perimeter officer, and it's going to be up to you to show them that you're not. So stick with me, and we're going to dive into this. So let's talk about some of the characteristics that perimeter officers show. First one is they avoid doing the dangerous work. You know, those are the type of officers where a call comes out, they're going to say, hold me out on something unavoidable, on a traffic stop, a disabled vehicle, while that shooting, that armed robbery, that carjacking is going on. They will do whatever it takes to make sure they're not involved in those situations. Okay. And after a time, that becomes very clear. The other thing is they try to stay outside when people do the work. You know, if you're inside dealing with domestic violence or you're trying to calm people down or dealing with a suicidal individual, they're the ones who are like, I will go grab the paper, I will go clear the person and try to remove themselves again from that situation. Another characteristic is they don't show initiative. Okay. They're always waiting for someone else to handle the work. They'll wait to be told what to do. And even then it's going to be the bare minimum of what you asked. In general, they're going to work to do whatever they can to avoid being involved. And the thing is, this is not just law enforcement. This week, I was in a training class, and the class was on process implementation. So, implementing process in your organization within departments. And there was a team building exercise where it was pretty challenging. You know, a lot of different things within a time frame that we had to do as a team. And one of the guys kept on walking out of the room kept on walking out of the room, grab some water, go grab a snack, go grab some candy, doing whatever he could to avoid the work. You know, me being me, I called him out on it and like, hey, you know, it's your turn. Why don't you step up and do some of this? And even then, he did the bare minimum, just enough to get by. And here's the thing: police agencies don't want those perimeter officers. And here's why. Law enforcement is about teamwork. Policing is about teamwork. And if you are not carrying your own weight, that means someone else on the team has to. If you're trying to minimize the amount of calls you're taking, the number of calls that are coming in for service aren't going to change. And if you're holding out on calls and someone else now has to pick up the slack, there's no room for that. The perimeter officer also will bring down motivation, right? If someone is always trying to get out of work and other people are having to pick up that slack, the morale of the team lowers. The tension among the team increases and teamwork starts to break down. So a department and agency is not going to want to bring someone in with that characteristics. And even if you're a brand new rookie, this applies to you, right? Because as a new officer, yeah, you may be first on scene and that call is yours. So you've got to demonstrate that leadership ability. You need to step up, handle that call, and be able to give direction and not shirk your duties, not shirk your work onto other people. So now let's talk about you, right? You're not a police officer yet. You're an applicant in the hiring process. So how can you show a department that you aren't going to be one of those perimeter officers? And the way you do that is by highlighting that you never were, or if there are chances for you to show that you aren't in that position that you used to be. And so what I mean by that is maybe you were a perimeter officer in your previous employment. What can you do now to start to show that you aren't? And so that way you have stories, you have examples that you can provide to an employer, to an agency saying, hey, this is why I'm not a perimeter officer. I've done this. So departments are looking for applicants who are willing to step up without being asked, without being told to do so. So think back about one of the jobs you've had previously. Is there a time that you went above and beyond, and that was sort of the natural practice for you? For example, you can say it was not at my last job. I was just on the line working at a fast food restaurant. It wasn't my job to train the new employee, but I did that anyway because I knew that they were struggling, and they were trying to adapt to the team. They had some questions. I wanted them to feel welcome. I wanted them to know they could ask for help. So I stepped up and I helped train them, even though that was not my responsibility. I took the initiative to be a mentor for them. So think back to examples that you can pull from your work history and be able to show departments those stories. Any opportunities that you can to highlight teamwork in your background, in your work history, your school environment, do so. So emphasize any role where you worked in a team environment and took responsibility. For example, if you were a captain on a sports team, talk about how you took responsibility and you made sure that everyone did more than was expected of them, that they pushed themselves to be better, that the minimum standards of a team were just that. They were just the minimum. And as a leader, you help bring everyone up. If you were in the military or had public safety roles, talk about how you took extra trainings to make sure that you were well equipped to handle whatever came your way and that you did what you could to help train and prepare your coworkers so that way anything that came your way as a team, you were in a better position to address that. Are there examples where you can show that you ran towards a problem, not away from that? And that doesn't necessarily mean being an officer and running towards the sound of gunfire. But in your work environments, did you meet the challenges head on? Or did you try to run away? Did you try to give that responsibility to someone else? Are there examples where you can say, yes, this was a challenging situation. None of us wanted to do it, but it needed to get done. So I stepped up and I started taking charge of the situation. I started leading by example and doing the most difficult work myself to demonstrate that we were going to work as a team and I was willing to do whatever it takes to help the team succeed. Let's talk about physical fitness. Are you able to show an oral board panel that you train like you mean it? That you are willing to train to be better? That even though these are going to be the standards or your goal for weight loss is maybe dropping 5 pounds, but you want to go above and beyond that. So you dropped 7, you did 10. Maybe you set that goal for the mile and a half at 12 minutes, but because of who you are going to push past that. You're going to train to be better than what your goal was set for. So in each of these examples, you can see that there is a consistent trend of avoiding work, trying to do the bare minimum. And then why it's so important for agencies to really identify people who might fall into this category and then elevate and mark down those stars who don't show that characteristic, right? Employers want people who are going to be a part of the team, who are going to do their work and help each other, because that's what you need in this career. There's chaos, there is trauma, there is death, there is goodness in this career. And the way you get through that and handle those calls each day is as a team. They are looking for people that they can add to that winning team. So we've gone over some examples. Now I want you to think about scenarios or situations that you can use in your oral board. Write them down. Because if you've taken my the prepared applicant or the oral board prep course, the thing about all this is to have stories and context to be able to deliver during your oral board. So as you do this, write this down and throw some in the chat. I'd love to hear what you guys have done in your past to be able to show that you're not that perimeter officer. I'm Lieutenant Skip, and good luck.